Hi, I'd like to welcome everyone to our video today. My name is Joe Uchel, and I'm a senior reporter at SC Media. I'm here with Richard Farley, Deputy CISO of Zoom. This year, SC Media has had a special focus for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, the business case for securely designed products. As we near the end of the month, there's no one more perfect than our guest to discuss how the market has changed over the past 18 months and how to adapt to it. Zoom is a company that is now also a verb. That wasn't the case until very recently with the growth of work from home. And Zoom has seen firsthand how the changing world has changed consumer needs. Zoom was one of the first companies forced to react to that kind of change. So I think that's probably a good place to start is we've had a tumultuous year and a half, both in terms of work from home stresses and a growing understanding of the cybersecurity problem. How have customers changed? How have customers' needs changed over the past 18 months or so?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. It's great to be with you this morning. So I think how have things changed over the past year and a half? I think just for some background, it's important to understand that when Zoom was founded, our target market was really centered around businesses and business use cases. And these businesses, had sophisticated security and IT teams that we worked with very closely to establish the security settings for their Zoom implementation that would align with their own threat models, right? That sort of all changed with the onset of COVID-19, the pandemic. The use of Zoom grew, of course, exponentially very, very quickly. And suddenly we had an enormous number of individual single license customers who didn't have IT departments to help make decisions about privacy and security settings for them, right? And so, in response, we made changes to our default settings for the platform that are aligned with what we consider security best practices and recommendations. And then we also created a whole bunch of training materials. We wrote extensive blog articles, and we held training webinars to promote these best practices in order to help our users make the best decisions.
I think one of the interesting things that came along during the end-to-end rollout was sort of the consumer demand for that to be just a standard feature, not to be a paid feature. It sort of talks to some level of sophistication of the public as a whole to these kinds of issues that I don't think we really had before. It doesn't seem, at least from covering it, it never seemed like I wouldn't have expected my parents to notice the difference. Have you noticed a change in the sophistication of even the users that are not necessarily, that don't have the IT teams guarding them?
Yeah, I think to some extent there has been. The media coverage of the increased number of security, vulnerabilities and security incidents that have happened over the past couple of years, especially as folks are working at home. They're concerned and worried, and I think some folks have focused on making themselves more aware of security issues in the tools and the websites that they use to do their, whether that's their day-to-day work or whether it's just their, personal browsing and doing the things that they do on the web. And I think, how that translates to Zoom, we had to really during, the massive growth that we had during COVID, really work around the clock to adapt to the new use cases that I mentioned before. And so in April 2020, we announced a 90-day plan that committed all of Zoom's engineering resources to focus on security and privacy and safety innovation. And that enabled us to innovate and enhance with incredible speed during that 90-day period, where we released over 100 new product features related to security and privacy. So some examples include upgraded AES 256-bit GCM encryption for all of our users globally. I mentioned the changes to defaults for meetings that included things like passcodes and waiting rooms and screen sharing defaults. We also put in meeting security controls really front and center for our hosts so that those hosts could easily control security features like locking meetings, admitting or ejecting attendees, allowing or disabling screen sharing, allowing or disabling backgrounds, muting and unmuting users, and then also, allowing or disallowing logins from multiple devices, and the ability to report disruptive users. And so all of these controls are just a couple of clicks away from meeting hosts to make it really easy for them to control the security in their meetings. I think you also mentioned full end-to-end encryption, which we made available towards the end of 2020. That full end-to-end encryption includes encryption keys that are generated by the endpoints themselves, and that's now available to all free and paid users on the platform. And I think, as you alluded to correctly, prior to all of this, I don't think users really understood the difference between the encryption that they're using to connect to their banks versus encryption that they're using for the apps that they might be using on their iPhone and browsing to other websites, let alone multi-point audio and video conferencing solutions. So it's important innovations that we've made there.
So for somebody who had a product and then had to rapidly reimagine what the security for that product would be, what does that process look like? What does it mean to design a secure product or to harden a product in this current environment?
Well, I think third-party risk management has become a major trend recently, right? Particularly with these several high-profile vulnerabilities and breaches that we've heard about in the news, such as SolarWinds. And we believe that it's important, first of all, to listen to our customers, understand what those use cases are, especially the new and novel use cases that we didn't anticipate ahead of time. And then to, as we develop new tools and resources for customers, new features within the product, to be very transparent as a technology provider when it comes to the capabilities that we've put in place. So, for example, being transparent to us, one of the key things that we did during that 90-day period where we focused on security and privacy for our users was to host a weekly kind of town hall meeting that we called Ask Me Anything with our CEO, Eric Yuan. And we also created weekly blog post updates on the security and privacy topics that we were focusing on. During that weekly webinar, we would answer questions live from participants and anybody could join. And so that was a great way for us to receive feedback and comments from our users that we would then incorporate into the product itself. I think it's also important to engage with our customer security leaders and other experts in the markets that we serve to get valuable insights from them. So we formed a CISO council, which brought together some of the most well-respected CISOs in the world, including from our banking customers, technology customers, healthcare, many other verticals. The CISO Council meets on a regular basis to engage in dialogue about privacy and security and technology best practices and issues that they face. And so it's a way for them to share their ideas with us, to share ideas with each other. And it's been so successful. The original CISO Council was mostly US based, but we've formed CISO Councils also in APAC and EMEA to gather feedback on issues and concerns that are specific to those geographical regions. So that's just a few examples of things that we've done to incorporate our customers' concerns and requirements into the product.
If I was starting a new product today, if I had not, if I'm a startup or a company that's considering a new product launch, how do I start now? How, with the current way that people view security, what do you need to do to design a product that will both meet their needs and that they will feel like is meeting their needs?
Good question. So, many companies, especially tech companies, have adopted, this kind of work from home or work anywhere model, and that's fairly novel, right? And that's moving now out of not just tech companies, but companies across the board. In the old days, we used to have this thing where we'd build castles and build moats around those castles and rely on that to secure our environments. And we're moving more towards this concept of zero trust as a baseline. It's now even more important for security leaders, whether that's in brand new companies or in companies that have been around for a long time, security leaders to focus on identity, authentication, least privilege access management, along with, of course, securing the devices that our workers are using to access our company information systems and data. This becomes an even bigger challenge for companies who adopt a bring your own device model, right? Where workers are using their own fixed and mobile devices to access the IT environments. At Zoom, we do support BYOD, but we require certain instrumentation of those worker-owned devices to ensure we have visibility and detection capabilities into those devices for the corporate environment. And so, I think the other thing that I would mention too, as again, whether you're a brand new company or a company that's been around for a while, worker cybersecurity training is a critical component of your program. And we're in Cybersecurity Awareness Month right now, and we've been doing a lot within Zoom to promote cybersecurity awareness this month, as we do all year long. But this is kind of the Super Bowl for us, right, in the security business. And the fact is that no matter what technical controls you put in place on your devices and your identity infrastructure, the human firewall is still absolutely critical, because if the bad guy can trick you into doing something that they want you to do, it is always going to be possible to bypass those technical controls. And so I think for new companies, it's really nailing the basics around the baseline of your security. That includes those core technical controls, but also focusing on the human element of it as well.
What in terms of being able to provide a product to customers, in terms of customer demand, what have you seen, and would you be able to have maintained market leadership if you had decided to just ignore security concerns, if you had if security wasn't a front of mind concern for the product?
No, I mean, I think, security is table stakes now. You can't just go to market with a product and think about security later as a bolt-on. It has to be baked in from the get-go. I think being able to demonstrate that, with a level of trust, but verification, that security has been baked into the product is important as well. So, we have lots of mechanisms that we use to create that trust with our customers. In my team, we call it our customer security assurance function. And that includes things like, being transparent and open about our policies, our security capabilities, whether those are capabilities within the product itself, like the functional security requirements within the product, but also our operational security requirements. And so, for us as a software as a service provider, of course, we have our SOC 2 reports. We do annual and even more frequent penetration testing using third parties who come in and test our products and attest to what they've done and the scope of it and the results. Certifications that we have and are continuing to work on, whether those are US-based certifications or global certifications, those are important as well. And so, I think building trust and being able to demonstrate the capabilities of your security program, that's what customers are expecting today. They don't want to see products that were developed without security in mind from the get-go. They are expecting it to be there.
It's an interesting point because the way you framed that was, it's not just about making a secure product, but it's it's not just about having a product that's secure at the moment, but it's about establishing a reputation for products, for both the design aspect and for continuing updates to security, continuing focus on it. How long does it take to kind of establish that kind of reputation? Is it something that you can build quickly, or is it something that
No, I don't think you can build it quickly. I think it can be torn down quickly. Right. All it takes is a significant breach of that trust, and those are the sorts of things that that we think about all the time. Trust is hard to earn, but it's easy to go away. And so, just being consistent, being open and honest with what it is that you do. I think those are the keys to it. That's not to say that you're never going to have issues, that you're never going to fall down. So it's also about, how do you pick yourself back up when the chips are down, and how you react to things that happen, so that you can build that trust back up again. So I think those are important.
You had mentioned transparency before as being one of the key ways to pick yourself up, and to are there other ways you can think of? I mean, what else should people be keeping in mind in terms of maintaining a clean reputation, even as things go wrong?
Well, I suppose I could point to again our end-to-end encryption offering that we delivered towards the end of last year. That wasn't done in a vacuum. That was done with lots of feedback from industry experts. We published a very, very detailed white paper about the technology that we were building, invited people to poke holes in it, and invited them to test it out, and see if it met what they were looking for. We also have a public and private bug banning program that we invite anybody, with the white hat security research industry to poke holes in our products as well, and we're very open about that. So I think that's another way, being open in your designs and capabilities, and then open in and inviting people to look for issues to help you make your product more secure. Those are really valuable.
As I guess over the past 18 months, we've seen very rapid change in how people view security and how companies need to change their designing practices for it. Is that just how it's going to be now? I mean, is it going to keep changing at that rate indefinitely, or are we going to reach some kind of equilibrium at some point?
hard to say for the industry as a whole, but certainly at Zoom, there's no standing still, right? There's definitely more change coming for us. We're not stopping or slowing down. We've been focusing a lot of our innovation this year on privacy, and we are seeing a lot of companies do that as well. One of the enhancements that we made to the product was fairly simple and straightforward, but you think about it, it's pretty intuitive. So there's a new UI element within the Zoom client that gives you an indication of the privacy settings within this meeting. So, it allowed this UI element, the in-meeting privacy notifier, makes it easy to understand kind of who can see and save and share the content that is being presented and transmitted within the Zoom meetings. So that our users can make informed decisions about how they use Zoom, but it's frictionless for our users. It's a small UI element. It's not in your face, but you can go take a look at it anytime that you want to. Some of the other innovation that we're working on right now, one in particular that we're really excited about, is bring your own key. Bring your own key is the ability for customers to supply their own encryption key for the data at rest. So if you were to record this meeting, for example, up to Zoom's cloud, wouldn't it be great if the encryption key that we were using to encrypt and store that recording file, if you were the only one in the world who had the key to that encryption? And so that's something that we're working on right now. We're also working on enhancements to end-to-end encryption around verified identity. So, how do you know, Joe, that I'm actually Richard Farley in this meeting, right? You're just...
There's a sign.
Yeah, right, exactly.
How could you fake that? That's
right. How could you fake that? So we're working on technology with some of our partners to be able to make third-party assertions as to your identity, so that you can actually trust that the person that you're in a meeting with actually is who they say they are. And then other things like working on that full end-to-end encryption for Zoom Phone, one of our other products that's slated for next year. So yeah, I'm definitely not standing still.
I guess a good place to wrap up would be for new products, for people who are looking to come up with their SaaS offering or their gizmo of in the design phase. What level of usership should they be looking for? I mean, you went from a healthy client base to more or less being global critical infrastructure. How do you design with exponential growth in mind, and knowing that we're one outbreak away from changing how things work?
Good question. So I think that the fact that Zoom was able to scale at the rate of COVID last year is sort of a testament to the design and scalability of the product itself. That we were able to 30 or 40-fold increase the user base that we were supporting, just within a few weeks period of time, is staggering and maybe unprecedented. The challenge, though, is that you can't just scale the number of boxes in a data center that you spin up in order to support those users. You also have to be prepared with contingency plans for scaling up your back-end operations, including and maybe especially your security operations. And so, having this kind of cloud native mindset and automation focused mindset around, how are you going to instrument all of those boxes that are sitting in those data centers with the, security tooling and instrumentation that you need in order to, ensure that that you are, securing that infrastructure to the best that you can. But then there's also, when the red lights go off, you have to have a team of people that's ready to respond if there are any security incidents. And so, in your planning, think about not just the scalability of the architecture of the product, but the scalability of your operations as well.
Okay, I think that's a good place to leave it. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.